This is Math 2, 11.3b notes. That's Math 2, Unit 11, Lesson 3b. The title is Using Complex Numbers. Solve for x is what we're going to write down. Solve for x. Express answers as complex numbers in simplified radical form. Okay, so if we have any radicals in there, we're going to simplify, pretty much just simplify any type of answers we have. Number 1, x squared plus 12x equals negative 45. And the only method we have at this point to solve something like this, besides factoring, and factoring would not work, is complete the square. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to solve by completing the square. Remember, the first thing to do was to move this constant over. It's already been done. So we're going to go through and put blanks on each side. So x squared plus 12x plus blank equals negative 45 plus blank. We take the middle number, which is the 12. We cut it in half and then square it. 12 cut in half is 6. 6 squared is 36. And what we add to one side, we must add to the other. And then we double bubble, factor. X plus 12 cut in half is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. It works. Negative 45 plus 36 is negative 9. And I've said this before, the whole reason we do this is to be able to write it as quantity squared so that we can square root both sides to solve. Square roots and squares, inverse operations, they undo each other. Don't forget plus or minus when you square root both sides of an equation. X plus 6 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 9 is 3i. We have talked about that before. Subtract the 6 over. X equals negative 6 plus or minus 3i. Okay, and that's it. Negative 6 plus or minus 3i. They're not like terms because this has an I on it and this one does not. This is your complex number, negative 6 plus or minus 3i. There are two solutions. It doesn't look like it, but negative 6 plus 3i is one solution, and negative 6 minus 3i is your other solution. So there are two solutions there. Number 2. Now, keep in mind, these are not x-intercepts because of the imaginary part of it, because it's a complex number. It's not an x-intercept, but there are two solutions. Imaginary solutions, but two solutions. All right, number 2, x squared plus 8x plus 28 equals 0. This constant has not been moved over, so we're going to do that first. Minus 28 to the other side. On number 1, it had already been done for us. This one has not. So I'm going to move it and put my plus blank on both sides. 0 minus 28 is negative 28. All right, we take the middle number, the b, the number with the x, cut it in half, and square it and put it in the blank. 8 cut in half is 4. 4 squared is 16. What I add to one side, I must add to the other. And then I factor. Same thing we've been doing. We've been doing this for a while now. Half of 8, positive 8 is 4, so x plus 4, and 4 times 4 is 16, so it works. Negative 28 plus 16 is negative 12. Quantity squared, again, that's the whole reason we complete the squared, is so that we can write it as quantity squared, so I can square root both sides to solve. Inverse operations undo each other. X plus 4 equals, don't forget your plus or minus. Plus or minus 12 is not a perfect squared, but it is a number that has pairs. I'll write it over here. 12 is 4 and 3. 3 is prime. 4 is 2 and 2. So 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. The 2 is coming out. Now because it's negative, and I is coming out with that 2, so 2I, and then the 3 is staying inside, root 3. X plus 4 equals plus or minus 2I root 3, and we get x by itself by subtracting the 4. Now, that negative 4 is not a like term with this imaginary radical, so x equals negative 4 plus or minus 2I root 3. And that's your final answer. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 2I root 3. 4 and the 2I root 3 are not like terms. Even if that I wasn't there, 4 and the 2 are not like terms because the 2 is attached to the root 3. And the I, no like terms. This is as far as you can go. That's your final answer. Number 3, x squared minus 10x plus 7 equals 0. I'm going to have you guys try that one on your own. And I am going to start the review. We are going to have some review here. Review, simplify. Number 4, 6 plus 2I minus 4 minus 7I. Now, this is review from previous lessons. It looks like double distribution, but there's a minus sign. If there's a minus, it is not a double distribution. You will distribute the negative, but that's it. Distribute the negative and drop your parentheses. So 6 plus 2I minus 4 plus 7I. And then we combine like terms. And that's pretty much it to this problem. 6 and negative 4 is 2. Positive 2I and positive 7I is positive 9I. And those are not like terms. There's your complex number answer. That's it for that problem. Okay, number 5, 4I times 7I. This one is multiplication. It's not addition or subtraction. We are multiplying. 4I times 7I. 4 times 7 is 28. I times I is I squared. And I'm hoping you remember from a previous lesson that I squared is always negative 1. That is something you will need to just flat out know. We talked about y. I can show you y again in class. I squared is negative 1, so 28 times negative 1 is negative 28. And you will have problems like this on the test. Okay, number 6. 6I times 3I times 5I. Okay, you multiply together and you get 6 times 3 times 5, and that ends up being 90. I times I times I, you add the exponents, that ends up being I to the third. Now, another thing I hope you remember that you will need to know for the test is the I1. Do you remember that? I to the first power, I to the second power, I to the third power, I to the fourth power, and what they each equal. And it was the celebration. I won with negative signs in the middle. I won with negative signs in the middle. So I to the third power is negative I. So 90 times negative I is negative 90I. It is okay to end up with an I in your answer. That's it. You should never have an I squared or an I cubed or an I to the fourth or even an I to the fifth or sixth. I should be the smallest one you ever end up with. All right, so your answer is negative 90I. Number 7. 3 plus 5I squared. 3 plus 5I squared. Quantity squared means you write the base twice. you do not distribute the exponent. We've talked about that before as well. If there's a binomial or larger, if it's not a single monomial inside, you do not distribute the exponent. You write it twice and double distribution. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5i is 15i. And then we continue. 5i times 3 is also 15i positive. And positive 5i and positive 5i is positive 25i squared. We combine our like terms right here in the middle, like usual. 9 plus positive 15i and positive 15i is positive 30i. You don't add the exponents when you add like terms. And then remember what we've talked about. I squared is negative 1. So you have 25 times negative 1. I squared is negative 1. So you have 25 times negative 1. So the plus 25i squared becomes minus 25. Because it's positive 25 times a negative 1, negative 25. And you have like terms again. And then you combine them. 9 minus 25 is negative 16 plus 30i. And there's your complex number. And that is your final answer. Okay, that is it for this lesson.